Hello, my miraculous friends, and welcome to another episode of the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. This is Reverend Frances Faden, and I'm so grateful to get to be with you today because we have a wonderful special guest that I know that you're going to enjoy listening to and hearing his amazing wisdom. We're so blessed to have him on our podcast. But before we do that, let's all take a few deep breaths together just to get ourselves grounded and centered. Breathing in the energy of expansion, breathing out anything that we no longer need, and just allowing that gentle energy of peace and blessings to make its presence known to us. And knowing that whatever we need to hear today to magnify our miracles is exactly what's going to be happening. So we'll take one more deep breath together in gratitude. And we can begin. All right, so welcome again, my friends, to the beautiful interview that we're going to be doing today. I want to tell you a little bit about Pierre Pradervand. As you know, I already did a book review of this book, The Gentle Art of Blessing, so we already have you ready for that. Pierre Pradervand studied at the universities of Geneva, Bern, and at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, before he received a doctorate in sociology from La Sorbonne University. A true world citizen, Pierre has labored most of his life for social justice, living in or visiting 40 countries on every continent. From his Geneva home, Pierre is now an active writer, speaker, and workshop facilitator, helping people to live simpler, yet richer, more contented lives. His workshops provide personal development tools that empower attendees to strengthen their internal anchors and advance on their spiritual path. Welcome, Pierre from Geneva. Thank you so much for being here.
My joy.
Oh, it's such a blessing to have you here. So, I did, in the previous week's podcast, I did introduce people to this book. I know you have several books out. But the thing I always ask all of my guests, since this is the Magnify Your Miracles podcast, what is your definition of a miracle, Pierre?
Good question. My definition of a miracle is something that seems to be happening outside of normal law or how humans understand the functioning of the universe, because I think that everything in the universe is run by laws, spiritual laws, divine laws. So I don't think a real miracle exists. Something is a miracle because we don't understand it with our small human consciousness.
I love that. That's so true. In reality, there aren't really any miracles because everything is run by law. So beautiful. Thank you. Well, not everybody knows your amazing story. And, the beautiful book, The Gentle Art of Blessing, really transformed the way I was looking at things. For people who don't know your story, could you tell us a little bit about how you started doing this amazing work that's transformed so many lives?
Absolutely. I was working for a group of NGOs in non-governmental organizations in Lausanne, Switzerland, in the early 1980s. And I had a new program that I'd been asked to start on third world issues for schools, introducing schools to these issues of the third world, which were totally unknown in the Swiss school system and most school systems in the Western world at the time. And I'd lived in Africa. I had very good knowledge of these questions. And I loved my work. And I even invested part of my salary to run an exhibit, roving exhibit on world hunger, because my sponsors had told me, we don't have the money for that exhibit, Pierre, you have to drop it. And I didn't want to drop it. So I invested thousands of dollars out of my pocket, something at the time like $15,000.
Wow.
It would be a huge sum today, out of my pocket. And this exhibit worked very, very well in school, had great success. And I was also a grassroots member of a an American campaign at the time called the World Hunger Project, which aimed at ending hunger by the year 2000, which at the time would have been possible. Now, one of the members of our committee, the four organizations sponsoring my work, hated this campaign because maybe he was very anti-American, and he forbidden me not only to speak of the campaign, but he forbidden me to say that one can end hunger by the year 2000 because this was the slogan of the American campaign. Now here are four organizations in the field fighting to end hunger, forbidding me to speak of ending hunger. This was so absurd. This was one person who hated my guts. This was so absurd that I quit my job.
Wow.
I'd never been told in my life the degree of consciousness that I had the right to have, and especially not being told what I had the right to tell school children when it was the truth. And so I quit my job, but I developed a huge resentment against this gentleman.
Yeah.
It was just eating me up day and night. I consulted all sorts of religious books. Nothing happened. I studied the Sermon on the Mount. And then one day, one statement by Jesus just hit me on the head. Bless those who curse you. But of course, Pierre, it's so simple. All you have to do is bless this gentleman. And I started blessing him from one day to another. First, it was in the head to obey to what I believe was a revealed commandment, but it moved rapidly down to the heart because blessing is 100% heart energy. I want to insist on that. And at the beginning, again, it was an effort, but then suddenly 3 months later in the street, I started blessing people in the street, on the bus, in the supermarket, on the train, everywhere I was. And it became so joyful, so incredibly joyful, I couldn't stop. And a few months later, I was writing a talk for an international youth meeting in Zurich, Switzerland, on the theme of healing the world. That was the theme of my talk. And suddenly I received a gust of inspiration as never before in my life, and never since. And literally this one-page text, Gentle Art of Blessing, which is the basis of my book, was literally dictated to me down to the last comma.
Wow.
It was amazing. And I started sharing this text left and right, and people took to it. It was just amazing. People started photocopying it, sharing it. And since then, it's gone around the world many times, and I've received responses from all around the world of people saying it works, it works, it works.
Oh, it's amazing. And I've seen it work as well. I wonder if you could elaborate for people that might not be familiar, because we have people from different backgrounds.
Yes.
So you said you started out mentally blessing him. What were you saying? Were you saying, I wish you well? What's your, yeah, just tell us about the blessing part of it.
Well, for me, blessing is wanting the real good of the other person from the bottom of your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Wanting the real good of the other person, or it may be an animal or a forest or an event, anything, the planet, from the bottom of your heart.
I
As
love
I
that.
said, blessing is 100% heart energy. These artificial blessings at the end of a sermon or church service, go in peace, my folk. For me, that's not a blessing. That's all in the mind. A blessing must be felt in the heart. And I spend my time, I was just in the bus a little while ago, I spend my time blessing people. As a matter of fact, in the Geneva buses, there's a special seat right in front, which is turned towards all the rest of the bus, where I can see most of the people sitting in the bus. And that's where I love sitting, because I can bless everyone.
It becomes a blessing bus. That's so sweet. So
Exactly.
sweet. I love that. So you were actually feeling a lot of resentment, and at
Oh,
first, with the first gentleman, you were feeling a lot of resentment,
it was gnawing my guts out.
gnawing your guts out. So you were blessed. So how did you get to be able to send him good thoughts when you were feeling all that negativity? Because I know a lot of people have a hard time starting.
First, I had to go against my feelings.
Ah, there's it. There it is.
For me, this was a divine order.
Yeah.
And I had the right to go against my human resentment.
Right.
And so I persevered. And suddenly one day, as I tell you, I started blessing everybody. And of course, blessing this gentleman became a pleasure.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's
And
amazing.
we met at least 10 years later. And I gave him a huge hug. And I'm sure he didn't remember anything that happened 10 years before. And so I had this feeling that the resentment was really healed.
Wow. That's amazing.
Totally.
Ah, I can feel it already. This energy, the heart energy. Because I was going to ask you the difference between a blessing and a prayer and an affirmation, but I think that's the answer. Is it's not about what's going on in your mind. It's really about feeling.
No, totally, 100% feel.
So since that happened, have you ever had any times where it's been difficult for you again, or once you got over it, you can now bless everybody easily?
I can bless every single person in the world. The other few weeks ago, I was sitting in silence, as I do every day, and I received an order from a higher dimension: love Putin.
Mm.
And I have a newsletter that goes out to thousands of people in Europe and some in North America. And I wrote a newsletter on loving Putin. And I've never received as many positive responses to any of my newsletters. So it made me feel that many people want to hear that. They don't dare think it because the public opinion is so atrociously aggressive against Mr. Putin. I can say that when I'm in a moment of quiet in my room and welcoming Mr. Putin into my thought, I can say to him in thought, Brother Vladimir, I really, really love you. And I think that will do him more good than all the aggressive thoughts that are bombarding him by the thousand daily.
I'm just so moved when you say it. I can feel the sincerity and the energy of what you're saying. And it gives me hope. It definitely gives me hope because a lot of people have been emailing me saying, Reverend Francis, what can we do? What can one person do? But what you're saying, this is what you can do. You can do this and you can send out that love and that positive blessing, and that's going to make a bigger difference.
Exactly.
It's amazing. Now, I remember reading in your book that you talk about obviously the inner peace is so important, but even people experiencing physical healing from being able to do this practice. It's like by blessing others, you receive blessings at the same time.
And by the way, I want to mention that I have a website.
Yes, please.
www.gentleartofblessing, all linked, gentleartofblessing.org.
Yes.
Where you will find a whole section on healings, and including healings of physical problems, but especially healings of relations. relationships. That's where blessing comes up with flying colors. Really, it's such an extraordinary tool. When you've really learned to bless from the heart, you can have no resentment towards anybody in the world. I can say, looking at you straight in the eyes, there's not a person in the world I judge.
Wow.
I'm totally free from judgment. And it has been giving me for years such equanimity, such deep peace.
What a gift. I can feel your energy, and it's so amazing to feel the result of that. So you have several books. One of the other beautiful books I wanted to mention for people is the one where it helps people to practice every day, 365 Blessings. And that's where you give somebody something that they can read to help them practice every day.
Every day is a different blessing or meditation on the theme of blessing.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that, I know you told me earlier that you don't want to tell people what to do, so I'm not going to ask you to tell us what to do. But for somebody that's just getting started with your work, would you say that would be a beautiful place to start, is with that book, the 365 Blessings, if they want to get into the practice of doing it?
I would suggest the gentle art of blessing.
Okay.
They need a little more,
Grounding.
Human grounding than just turning out blessings each day.
Yeah.
The gentle art of blessing is still my favorite stretch.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful work.
It's appeared in many languages, and I've received returns from the whole world.
Beautiful. Is there anything that you wanted us to know that I haven't been asking you so far? Any things that you'd like to share? Any stories that you want us to know about?
Well, I would just say that if you are in deep conflict with someone, it may take months and months, and possibly years, to overcome the deepest resentments. But just persevere, persevere, persevere. I always say that 3 basic qualities of spiritual progress are sincerity, integrity, and perseverance.
Yeah, so true. Beautiful. Well, so much of your work is available online, so I want to give people a chance to know how to connect with you more. So as you said, I'm going to let them know it's gentleartofblessing.org, and that's where you can find a lot of resources to support you if you're wanting to follow this path. They can also, if they want to find out more about your books or anything else that you're doing, we can go to your website, pierrepradervand.com. And I will put all of this in the show notes so that people know how to spell it, Pierre, Pierre, and your last name, Pradervand.com. I'll put all of that in the show notes so people know how to connect with you. And I just want to say thank you so much for being such a beautiful source of light and healing on the planet. I know you've been doing this for a really long time, and you're still going strong.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a lively 85, and I won't tell how long I plan to stop, because people would say stop joking. But I'm quite serious.
Yeah.
I'm still writing numerous books. I have, at the moment, 1 book coming out in June, and I plan another one coming out at the end of the year, and 2 more for next year. So
wow.
I'm not unemployed.
So the one that comes out in June, what's that one called?
Well, it's French.
Oh, it's French. Okay.
I have one coming out in English in January called Finding Your Spiritual Path with Inner Traditions.
Oh, right. Finding your spiritual path. How important is that?
Yes.
So that'll be coming out in January.
Well, early next year.
Yeah, 2023.
Inner Traditions.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Well, maybe we have to have you come back and talk about that when that book is out. That would be lovely.
anytime I'm available.
Oh, thank you so
Always.
much. I'm so grateful for your time. I'm really, really so appreciative. And thank you for being such a blessing in my life and for being such a blessing on the planet.
And it's been a great pleasure to talk to you with you today, Francis, really. And I'm available anytime.
Thank you so much.
To you and all listeners, God bless you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, so beautiful. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in here. And if you did enjoy this podcast, please feel free to let your friends know. Share it on social media, whatever works for you. I'm so grateful. And remember what I always say, the key to magnifying your miracles is to know that your miracle is already here. God bless you. Bye-bye.